Hello everyone, welcome to StudyIQ. In this video, I will bring to you the most awaited video, that is budget analysis. So budget 2022-23, we will analyze why it is so important, why the budget is always so important. And I have designed this video in such a manner that you feel confident in the budget. Often what happens is we let go of the soul of the budget. We don't pay attention to capital expenditure, the revenue receipts. We find all of this terminology very confusing. We are not well read in this regard. We don't have a economics background. We don't have a finance background. So what I have done is, in this video, I will first teach you those concepts so that you understand the budget in the right spirit. Imagine a flower without a fragrance. Imagine a body without a soul. That is how I have seen students trying to mug up the budget. This is not meant to be mugged up in that way. Every point is crucial. Every sentence is crucial. Right? Now, for example, in this budget, it was announced that we will be running 400 Vande Bharat trains in the next few years. Now, this is the easy part of the budget. All these schemes and all of this, the new projects, the multi-modal parks, the airports, all of this is the easy part. The difficult part is the revenue receipts, the capital receipts, the revenue, the expenditure, the capital expenditure. All of this is the difficult part. And there is no point paying for a course if you are not ready to work hard. It will be a long video, make no mistake about it. So make sure that you are in the right frame of mind. Okay, you have time to study and you have the right attitude. Otherwise, if you don't have the right attitude, you can watch this video 5 times and still you will not understand anything. So make sure that you sit with a calm mind. If possible, sit with a register. I have already shared the PDF. You can take the printout and then side by side you can learn as I speak. Understood? So let's start the budget. And budget is very, very important for all the exams. In fact, I cannot even think of one exam where there will not be a question from budget. At least in my short career, 7 years is a relatively short career in the overall scheme of things. In my 7-year career teaching current affairs, I have not seen a single exam where the budget is not asked, right? And you have to ignore all those masala stuff about the budget, that which color sari was Nirmala Sitharaman wearing, which color briefcase she was holding, and all that you ignore and focus on what is important. Budget is for the big boys, right? It's for the big girls. So this is not an easy video to understand, but I will try to explain to you in very simple language. Okay, so let's start. Before I start, I would like to say that I have launched my banking awareness static course, and there are more than 6,000 videos on YouTube where I have taught. So you can see how I teach and then make an informed decision whether this course deserves to be purchased or not. Now, so far I have uploaded only one lecture, which is the Basel norms 1, 2 and 3. It's a comprehensive lecture. It is not exam oriented lecture. And similar strategy I will follow when I teach other topics. So my next topic will be Negotiable Instruments Act, that I will upload on 7th of March. So if you want to buy this course, the link is right in your app. If you are watching this video, then obviously you have purchased the current affair course. So if you want to upgrade, if you want to buy this course, then the link will be right there on your app. You can apply the course GG33, everything in capital and without any space, and you can get 33% discount on the list price. List price is 5,000 rupees, but you can get it for approximately 3,300, 3,400 rupees if you put GG33. Now, this is not a budget of 2022. This is a budget of 2012. Okay, this screenshot is of 2012. Now, why I am showing you this screenshot is because in any budget, when you see the summary of the budget, which is the most important thing in my view, then you will see that it talks about revenue receipts, it talks about capital receipts, it talks about total receipt, the plan, non-plan expenditure, the total expenditure, out of which we have revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. It talks about revenue deficit, the budgetary deficits, the fiscal deficits, the primary deficits. There are so many different deficits. And it talks about all of these parameters in a very structured way. Now, till today or before watching this video, I am assuming that most of you, sure, there will be some highly intelligent people, but most of you, you are scared when you look at this and you think it is not important, or you probably don't understand it. That is why you don't make an effort to learn. So before I start, I will start from absolute basic. What is a budget? And how the government budget is different from the budget that I will make for my home. How it will be different. Budget is nothing but allocation. If I have to put it in one word, budget is nothing but allocation. This is my own definition of budget. It is nothing but allocation. Remember when you were young and if you want to buy a toy and you asked your mother, can I buy the toy? So what will mother say? Either she will accede to your demand and say yes, okay, sure. Otherwise she will say there is no budget. Which means it does not mean she does not have money. No. But she will refuse your demand because she has made certain allocations of the money that she has, so much so that there is no provision that any extra can be taken out for your toy. That is why she said no. She did not say no because she does not have the money. She said no because she has already provisioned for the money that she has. So this is budget. Okay. So budget is a consolidated financial statement prepared by the government on expected public expenditure and public revenue during a financial year. So let me give you an analogy, and then you will understand what is the difference between the government's budget and my home budget. Essentially, we are doing the same thing, but there is a very important difference. That difference is that, for example, let's take an example of my home. What will I do? First, I will see what is my revenue, in this case my salary, and then I will plan my expenditure. Let's say my salary is 10,000 rupees, okay, monthly. Let's assume my salary is 10,000. So I already know what is my salary. And after receiving my salary, I will start planning my expenditure. That okay, out of 10,000, 1,500 will be rent, 2,000 I will spend on my food, 3,000 I will spend on my kids. I don't have any, just saying. So I will plan my expenditure later. First I will receive my salary. Understood? But government is exactly the opposite. That is the main difference. So how it is different? Government, they plan the expenditure first and then they plan where is this money going to come from. And that is the major difference between a budget and my home budget. Okay. So for this year, government has planned an expenditure of 39.4 lakh crore. This is the money that the government will spend, 39.4 lakh crore. Now 1 lakh crore is equal to 1 trillion rupees. Understood? So government will spend 39.4 trillion rupees. And then it will start thinking that okay, out of 39.4 lakh crore, I will get, let's say, 20 lakh crore from taxes. I will get 5 lakh crore from borrowings. I will take a loan. Basically what happens, government plans, government sees whether it will have a shortfall or not, and then it takes loan. That loan it can take from RBI, the loan it can take from the World Bank, from multilateral institutions like Asian Development Bank, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and all of these. It can take a loan. Or government can issue bonds. The best way to raise money is issue bonds. Tell the public to invest in those bonds. Promise them certain interest rate, and those bonds you can issue through the banks, and banks have a large consumer base. So banks will issue the government securities and they are very safe. So people will invest in those government securities. Government will promise them some money, 5%, 6%, depending on different types of securities. Why government issues bonds? Because it is foreseeing that it wants to spend 39.4 lakh crore, but it will have a shortfall of so much money. So these are some ways by which that shortfall can be filled. Understood now the difference? The difference was, I will plan my expenditure based on my salary, but the government will plan their expenditure first and then they will go after the sources of income. Understood? Now I will show you this receipt after 10 to 15 minutes again, but this time you will be in a very confident mood that okay, now I can make a sense of all of this. This data which looks scary is not scary at all. The lack of knowledge creates scare. Lack of knowledge creates fear. Where there is knowledge, there is no fear. Okay. Okay, then let's talk about receipts. Doesn't this word sound like, okay, I'm not talking about that receipt. Okay, you pay a bill, you take a receipt, not like that. Now, doesn't this word looks like receive, receipt of documents? So, what is a receipt? The receipt of the government show the different sources from which the government raises revenue. You are receiving something. Okay, you are receiving something, and there are two kinds of receipts. One is the revenue receipt and other is the capital receipt. How can a government receive something? It will take tax from you. It is receiving something, right? Again, the tax can be of different types: direct tax, indirect tax. Then the direct tax is of many type, indirect tax is of many type. So that is one way government will receive. What can be other ways? Government can take a loan from the World Bank. No, that is also a receipt. Government is getting something, right? So receipt, just picturize in your mind that you are receiving something. Government is receiving something. That is a receipt. That is exactly the opposite of expenditure. Expenditure is what? You are spending something. It is going away from you. Receipt is what? It is coming to you, right? So there are two types of receipt. First is the revenue receipt. So revenue receipt are the current income receipts from all the sources. This is the source of the income, for main source of the income for the government. So for example, taxes. Government collects all sorts of taxes. There are so many taxes, especially in a country like India, because there is a progressive taxation. What is the meaning of progressive tax? Progressive tax is that as you become richer, the more tax you have to pay. So for example, till 5 lakh rupees in India, there is no tax. Okay, you will get standard deduction and the slab, according to slab, you don't have to pay any tax. But if you start earning from, let's say, till 10 lakh rupees, you have to pay 10% tax. But if you are earning in crores, then you have to pay 30% tax, surcharge extra. So just as your income is increasing, the tax that you have to pay is also increasing. The percentage of that is increasing. That is called progressive taxation. Now tell me one thing. Is a sales tax, okay, now GST, is GST Is it also a progressive tax? GST or sales tax, you know that what is GST, right? It subsumed all these taxes. So if you are buying a packet of a biscuit for 10 rupees, let's say 2 rupees will already be added in it. That is you are paying. Now whether a poor person is buying the biscuit packet or a rich person is buying, they all are paying 2 rupees only, no? MRP is the same for everyone, whether you are a rich person or a poor person. MRP is the same. It is a maximum retail price. A shopkeeper cannot charge more than MRP. So GST is not a progressive tax. Understood? It's a proportionate tax. It is not progressive tax. So I'm just saying that these important concepts of economics I will cover in this video side by side so that you become confident. I am not worried about the time. I know this video will be very lengthy, but it is very important for you to learn these concepts so that it changes your perception, right? You feel empowered, and that is the purpose, okay? So I told you receipt is what? Something is coming to you. That is a receipt. Now revenue receipt is what? Revenue receipt is the source of the income for the government. How? So what all things will be there in the revenue receipt? There will be taxes, all different types of taxes, profits of the public enterprises, grants, etc. Your public sector companies, ONGC, BHEL, SAIL, GAIL, Coal India Limited, Bharat Petroleum, Hindustan Petroleum, now Power Finance Corporation, PGCIL, all these big Maharatna companies, the Mini Ratna category A, Mini Ratna category B, Navaratna, central public sector enterprises, they will also make profit. So that is also what? Revenue receipt, source of the income for the government, right? So revenue receipt does not create any liability nor causes any reduction in the asset of the government. What is the meaning of this line? This is important. If the government has made a profit of 10,000 crore from ONGC in the last 1 year, that is government's money. Government does not have to return that money to anyone, right? So there is no liability caused or there is no reduction in the asset of the government. Okay, tell me one thing where government will get the money but there will be a reduction in the asset of the government. Disinvestment. So for example, if the government has sold ONGC tomorrow, if the government decides to sell ONGC tomorrow to someone, okay, for 20,000 crore, then ONGC has gone to private person. It is not owned by the government. So there is a reduction in the asset. Yes, government is getting money. Yes, but there is a reduction in the asset, right? So revenue receipt, there is no reduction in the asset because disinvestment is not revenue receipt. It is a capital receipt. So if I have to say in one line, what is the difference between revenue receipt and capital receipt? In both the money is coming. The difference is that in revenue receipt, the government does not have to return the money to anyone. There is no liability. Whatever it is making money. Whether it is tax. So for example, you pay tax to the government. In no condition, government will return that tax to you back. Understood? So in revenue receipt, government will make money. How? Through taxes, through the profit in the public sector companies and grants. What is a grant? So if tomorrow Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Bill Gates, one of the richest guys in the world, suppose he comes to India and he says that I want to support the government of India for reducing tobacco consumption, and that is why I am giving 500 crore to the government of India. That is a grant. He is giving this grant, this money, he does not want it back. Government is not obligated to give it back. He wants to make a difference. So he will give this money to the government of India. that is a grant. This is not to be returned back. So that is again a source of income for the government. And these grants are given by all these big organizations, the Ford Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Sometimes a lot of multilateral institutions also give the grants to the government from time to time. So all of that is a revenue receipt. Now it's crystal clear what is revenue receipt. Revenue receipt is you are earning money. It is a source of income for the government, and government does not have to give anything to anyone back. There is no liability increase. There is no decrease in the asset of the government. Now let's come to the capital receipt. In capital receipt, yes, the government will again get money. Receipt, after all, it is a receipt, but the government will have to pay it back. For example, if the government takes a loan from the World Bank or any multilateral institution, then yes, government is getting the money, that is a capital receipt, but the government tomorrow has to give it back also. After 1 year, 50 years, 25 years, doesn't matter. You have to give it back. Or if there is a reduction in the asset of the government, like disinvestment. So capital receipt are the receipt of the government which either create a liability or cause any reduction in the asset of the government. For example, the borrowings. Now these borrowings can be domestic, that is from the RBI, our own fellow RBI, or it can be from the abroad, foreign country, the World Bank, etc. Right? The recovery of the loan and the disinvestment. What is the meaning of recovery of the loan? Recovery of the loan simply means that if the government has given a loan, let's say to the state government, okay, and the state government returns that money. So any loan is an asset. You are giving a loan to someone, that is your asset. It will come back. Now, yes, the money has come back, but that asset has gone away. Right? So that money has come back from the state, all right, but ultimately the asset that you were holding, for example, now try to understand this. I have given 500 rupees to someone. That is my money. That is my asset. It is outstanding, right? It is my asset. If that person returns that money to me, yes, I get the asset back, but the money that was with him is now gone. Understood? Same is the concept with disinvestment also, no? In disinvestment, what is happening? Government is selling its company to some private company. That was the asset of the government. Yes, the government has got money in lieu of it, in return of it. But ultimately, that asset is no longer now with the government. Same with borrowing. If the government is lending to someone, that amount is an asset. If you get it back, that asset is not there anymore. Understood? So recovery of loan and disinvestment, all of these are capital receipt. Now you have understood this very important concept. Revenue receipt and capital receipt. Revenue receipt, income of the government, no need to give anything back, no liability, no reduction in asset. Capital receipt, income yes, but you have to either return it, liability increase, and there is a reduction in the asset. And I have already told you the difference between comparing a person with the government. A person will plan his expenditure based on the salary or the revenue, but government will plan first the expenditure and then they will find the sources to fund that expenditure. Okay, now let's go a bit into the detail. Revenue receipt. I told you revenue receipt. What is revenue receipt? So in revenue receipt, there is no liability that is increasing and there is no reduction in the asset. So revenue receipt is of two types, tax revenue and non-tax revenue. Tax revenue, it's a legal compulsion. Tax is a legal compulsion. It is not a moral compulsion. Just don't pay the tax and then see what government does to you. So it is a legal compulsion. Okay. So tax is of different type, income tax, sale tax, service tax, excise, custom duty, and different types. So revenue from tax has been the primary source of the government income traditionally. It is changing as we will see, but it is the tax revenue which gives government lot of comfort. And here are some examples for direct tax and indirect tax. What is the difference between the two? It's very simple. Direct tax, you will directly give into the hand of the government, okay, which means the onus of paying, right, is on the person. The burden of the tax lies on the person who is paying it. So if I am paying the income tax, the burden is on me directly. But what about GST? Sales tax. If I am buying a packet of biscuit for 10 rupees and 2 rupees is the tax already added. So out of the 10 rupee, 2 rupees is the sales tax. I am buying the biscuit from whom? From the government? No. I am buying the biscuit from the shopkeeper. So if I am paying 10 rupee to the shopkeeper, 2 rupee is already added to that 10 rupee. So indirectly, I am paying 2 rupee not to the government, to the shopkeeper. And shopkeeper will then pay to the government. Understood or not? Now you have understood the difference between direct tax and indirect tax. Direct tax, the burden is on me. Indirect tax, government is taking 2 rupee from the shopkeeper, but the burden of paying that 2 rupee is not on the shopkeeper, that is on me. He is passing his burden on me because I am paying for the biscuit, the packet of biscuit. Understood? So I wrote here the differences, you can see, and all of these, this is from NCERT. This exact text is from NCERT, and this shows the importance of the concepts. Okay, even this screenshot is from NCERT. This is also from NCERT. This is basic NCERT of 11th class, chapter number 39 or 29. Everything is from there in this video, till the budget, of course. So what are the different types of direct tax? There is the income tax, corporation tax, wealth tax and gift tax. Indirect tax is value added tax, excise duty, custom duty, service tax. Now the very fact GST is not written and all of these taxes are written shows that it is a very old NCERT. So in a direct tax, the direct tax are levied on individuals and firms. Indirect tax are levied on goods and services or GST. The shift of the burden. So the burden of a direct tax cannot be shifted. I will feel the impact because I am the taxpayer. But the burden of an indirect tax can be shifted. The seller will shift the burden on the buyer. Then the nature of the tax. Direct tax is progressive in nature. Indirect tax is proportionate in nature. Now you can tell anyone what is the difference between a progressive tax and a proportionate tax. If a poor man buys the packet of biscuit, he also pays 2 rupees. If a rich man he also pays 2 rupees as sales tax. Nothing changes. But income tax is progressive. I told you, the more I earn, the more I pay, the higher percentage I pay. And coverage. They have limited reach as they do not reach all the sections of the society, and they have a wide coverage as they affect all the sections of the society. Very important point. So lot of these fellow who are earning lot of money, and these figures, I will discuss economic survey, I will tell you how many people are paying income tax in India. Barely 3-4%. Now they think that only they are contributing to the country's development because they are paying income tax, and 94 to 95, 96% India does not pay income tax. But everybody pays indirect tax. And do you know the indirect tax collection is more than the direct tax? So if somebody makes fun of the poor people and say, you guys don't pay tax, then poor people have a right to be angry about it because this is a lie. Yes, they don't pay direct tax, but everybody pays indirect tax. Whatever you will buy from the market, the indirect tax will already be added on it. So you cannot escape it. You buy whatever, milk, soap, you buy oil, whatever. Everybody pays indirect taxes, right? But why so few people paying income tax, only 3-4%? Because they are outside the tax bracket. We are a developing country, no. And less than 5 lakh income, no tax. Most of the Indians are in that bracket. In fact, the people who call themselves middle class, they are actually among the richest 1 or 2%. They don't realize that. Okay, now let's come to the non-tax revenue. Now it is a very intriguing question sometimes in the mind of people. Apart from tax, can there be other sources of revenue also? Of course, this is what you call non-tax revenue. Now non-tax revenue is of further two types. One is commercial revenue and one is administrative revenue. Commercial revenue is received by the government in the form of prices paid by people for goods and services that government provides. So for example, you are paying your electricity bill, you are paying your water bill, you are paying for railways ticket, there will be some margin in that, government will make money, postal stamp, toll tax, all of this is non-tax revenue. But it is commercial in nature, so it is what you call the commercial revenue. And then there is administrative revenue. It arises on account of the administrative services of the government. For example, fee in the form of passport fee, the visa fee, visa application fee, government hospital fee, education fee, court fee, the fine and penalty, the challan that you pay. If you break a rule, you pay a challan, you pay a bill for violation, you pay a fine. All of that. License fee and permit, you apply for different types of licenses. Income that the government get by taking the possession of property which has no legal claimant or legal heir. Sometimes a person will die without having a will, all of the property will be taken by the government. Sometimes there is actually no heir. He will not have a son or a daughter or any claimant. So government will take that property into the possession. That is also a source of the income of the government. And interest receipt, profit of the public sector undertaking. All of this is a part of the non-tax revenue of the government. Now let's talk about the capital receipt. I told you capital receipt, there will be increase in the liability of the government. They will have to pay this money back. And also the asset will be reduced. So there are three types of capital receipt which is a source of the income for the government. One is the borrowing. Again, borrowing you can take domestic borrowing, external borrowing. Domestic, you can issue security, government security through the bank, you can issue bond, and you can raise money from the people through the banks. Or external borrowing, you can take it from IMF, World Bank, foreign borrowings. In domestic borrowing, you can also take from RBI directly. Government takes money from RBI directly. That is also domestic borrowing. You can issue bonds, that is also a domestic borrowing. Right? All of this. Recovery of loans. So quite often the state and the local government borrow from the central government. Central government will give the loan to the state government. It will take with interest. That is also source of income. Then why are we calling it reduction in the assets? So because recovery of the loan reduces the debtors, number of debtors who owe money to you. Okay, so it is a reduction in the assets. Disinvestment. Now disinvestment is a little bit tricky. A lot of people think, and I don't know why people think like that if the government is disinvesting from something, then they are selling the country. It's not like that. You see, you have to understand India of before 1991 and India of after 1991. If you want a country where everything is owned by the government, like it used to happen earlier, and we went bankrupt. In 1991, we were left with two options. Either bring the reforms or perish, perform or perish. And Dr. Manmohan Singh and Narasimha Rao, very wise men, they chose the path of LPG. Liberalization, privatization, globalization. Liberalize the economy, reduce the red tape, reduce the license raj, make it liberal, reduce the number of papers that you have to sign for even opening a company. Do all that. Privatization. When everything is government owned, you privatize it and raise money. Give the opportunity to the private people, right? And globalization. So these reforms were brought in 1991. So in 1991 we started privatization, right? That is what is written here. Before 1991, the central government owned 100% of the share of the PSUs, which is not a right practice. Had it been right, we would not go bankrupt in 1991. So the disinvestment of the public sector undertaking, that is also a source of the income. In fact, now in every budget, government already tell you how much money they will raise from disinvestment. So you hear about LIC IPO. Now the government has said 5%. 5% LIC will be privatized through IPO. Similarly, you hear about all these companies, BPCL for example, Bharat Petroleum. You talk about privatization of banks. All of this is attempt to raise money. Okay. Now we have completed the 50% part, which was most important, which was receipt. Till now, whatever is happening, government is taking money. Government is earning money. Now let's come to the next part, which is expenditure. So just as receipt were of two types, revenue receipt and capital receipt, expenditure is also of two types. So capital expenditure and revenue expenditure. And what is the difference between the two? Is a very beautiful question. Let's talk about capital expenditure. Now you have received the money. Now it is time to let go. Let go how? So there is a capital expenditure and then there is a revenue expenditure. And what is the difference? I will tell you in just one line. Capital expenditure is when you create assets. For example, you are building a government building. You are creating an asset. But if you are paying salary to the government people, the government personnel, government karamchari as we call in Hindi, if you are paying them salary, are you creating any assets? No, right? But that is an expenditure. In fact, that is a big expenditure, as you will see in the video. So capital expenditure in one line is that expenditure where you create an asset. Understood? So you build roads, you build, sewage treatment plant, you build towers, the communication towers, all of this, okay? So when the government, they do expenditure to create assets such as school, college, university, hospital building, road, bridge, canal, railway, all of this. There is one more point, however. Any expenditure done either to create an asset. Now can I say when you are creating an asset, you are also reducing the liability. Asset and liability are inversely proportional to each other. So in one line, I will improve my line now. You create an asset or you reduce the liability. That is called capital expenditure. Okay? So reduce your liability, such as you pay back loan that you took from the World Bank, you pay it back with interest. That is a capital expenditure. So such expenditures are called capital expenditure and they are one-time expenditure. So for example, if you are building a railway station, that is a one-time expenditure. You are not building that same railway station every year. You will only build it one time, right? So that is a one-time expenditure. But when the government incur expenditure that neither create any asset nor reduces liability, that is called revenue expenditure. So which is the more expenditure? Like which is more? Obviously, it is the revenue expenditure that is more. Much more. But tell me one thing. if the government, now government has brought in a plan called PM Gati Shakti, where huge infrastructure will be set up in India to the tune of 100 lakh crore. This much money government will spend. Government will build ports, waterways, railways, airports, PM Gati Shakti. So if such a plan you want to undertake, what type of expenditure will increase? It will be capital expenditure. You are creating assets. And when I will show you what happened in the budget this time, you will understand why the capital expenditure increased by like 25-26%. Understood? So when the government does any expenditure which does not create asset or which does not reduce liability, that is called revenue expenditure. For example, payment of the salary to the government employee, pension, which is again a huge expenditure. Okay. Maintenance of the public property. You have built a property, but if you need to paint it, you need to modernize it, you need to kind of repair it. Providing free education or healthcare to people, all of these are revenue expenditure. They do not create any public asset. Understood? Now sometimes, even though it is a very old terminology, we have done away with 5-year plan. Now we don't have 5-year plan system in India. Okay, but we used to have. So this terminology you will see in some books. Some good books, in fact all of the good books. Okay, whatever till now I have taught you is from the NCERT. Okay, everything, each word is from NCERT. So I consider it a good book. I have got a lot of knowledge from NCERT, even in my school days. But you will hear these terminology. This terminology you will seldom see in the new books. Plan expenditure and non-plan expenditure. You know, we used to have 5-year plans, 12th 5-year plan, 7th 5-year plan, and we planned the expenditure. So after independence, our country adopted the path of planning to achieve economic development. Under planning, provisions were made in the government budget for expenditure that was to be incurred every year according to the priorities laid down in the 5-year plan. Every 5-year plan, we focused on something, and there could be some things on which we used to focus more, and the expenditure for that was the planned expenditure. It was called the plan expenditure. And besides the plan expenditure, government also had the routine expenses on different things. Police, judiciary, water supply, sanitation, and a million other things. That is the non-plan expenditure. Okay, now we have finished our concepts. Now you know about the receipt, you know about the expenditure of both types. Revenue, capital receipt, revenue, capital expenditure. Now let's quickly deal with the fiscal deficit. Super easy. If your income is 10,000 rupees per month, this is your income. Okay. There is only one source of your income. Government has two sources of income. Revenue receipt and capital receipt. But you, poor guy, I have only one source of income, which is 10,000 rupees per month. Now, there is some expense of unforeseeable nature, some emergency expense I have to incur. So 12,000 rupees I need for this month, which means I go into a deficit. I will run into a deficit. The total earning and the total expenditure, they do not meet. Okay. So I run into 2,000 rupees deficit. What will I do? I will tell you what I will do. I will go and ask for the 2,000 rupees from my friends. That is what I will do. Now in this case, what is the friend of the government? It is the World Bank. World Bank is the friend of the government. Let's say nobody is anybody's friend, but okay, let's say. So we need to balance our earning with our expenditure. That is the bare minimum we need to do, right? Okay, if I save, good, I have a surplus budget. But in today's time, for a developing country like India, a surplus budget cannot happen. We are spending so much on infrastructure. We have to modernize our police forces, modernize our defense. Surplus budget cannot happen. It cannot happen that the government of India's income is more and the expenses are less. Expenses will always be very, very large. So, this 2000 rupees I will need to borrow. Now, first let's take a very normal scenario. Okay. Let's talk about first a revenue deficit. Okay. Basically, deficit is of many types. There is a revenue deficit, there is a primary deficit, there is a fiscal deficit. But to make it very simple, I told you that the revenue receipt is there and capital receipt is there. And in capital receipt we have the loans, the borrowing that we do, disinvestment also, recovery of loan also. But let's take only the main source of revenue, which is tax and non-tax revenue, which is the revenue receipt. So, if my revenue receipt is there and my revenue expenditure is there, let's take the difference of the two. If my revenue expenditure is more and revenue receipt is less, I run into a deficit. That will be the revenue deficit. Understood? What is revenue deficit? Revenue deficit is simply the calculation that you do when you subtract the revenue receipt and revenue expenditure. And revenue expenditure is more, that is why you run into a deficit, that is revenue deficit. But if I say revenue receipt plus capital receipt, this is the total earning of the government. Government earning is not only revenue receipt. Revenue receipt plus capital receipt, this is the earning. And what is the expenditure? Revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. If that happens, then you will run into a deficit, which means the total earning and total expenditure. Okay. Total earning and total expenditure, there will be a deficit. Because in total you have both revenue and capital. So, total earning, revenue receipt plus capital receipt, total expenditure, revenue expenditure, capital expenditure, there will be a deficit, and that is the fiscal deficit. But the difference is that in fiscal deficit, in the expenditure part, you will add both the expenditure, but in the receipt part, you will not add the borrowings. Okay. Because fiscal deficit shows us how much shortfall we have that we have to fill by taking the loan or by doing the borrowings. So, let me show you the formula to make it very easy. Now, look here. Total budget expenditure. Total budget expenditure is how much? Revenue expenditure and capital expenditure, which means revenue expenditure, you know, salary, pension, all of that. Capital expenditure, which creates public assets or which reduces liability. Both the type of expenditure minus total budget receipt excluding borrowing. Because if you include borrowing, you will balance it, no. If I want to find out how much borrowing I need to have, what will I do? I do what I did in that example. 10,000 was my earning. 12,000 is what I need to spend. So, I am short by 2,000. So, in fiscal deficit also, we want to find out our borrowing. That is why I find out my expenditure total and I minus from that the budget receipt, but I don't include borrowing, or I mean to say I will not include one part of the capital receipt, which is borrowing. And by doing so, I will find out how much money I am short. If I am short by 2,000, I will then go to the World Bank and ask for 2,000, or I will go to the RBI, or I will split. I will ask some from RBI, some from World Bank. Understood the difference between revenue receipt and and capital receipt, and now fiscal deficit and revenue deficit. Revenue deficit, I am only concerned with revenue expenditure and revenue receipt, and I take the difference and I find out how much is the revenue deficit. In fiscal deficit, I will take my total expenditure and I will minus my total earning, but I will not include my borrowing, and therefore I will find out how much borrowing I need to do, as simple as that. And then there is one more deficit, which is the primary deficit, which is again very simple. From the fiscal deficit, now you reduce the interest that you are giving on the borrowings. So from fiscal deficit, you reduce the interest payment then that you have made on the previous borrowings, and you get primary deficit. So these are economic terms. The most common that we follow, that is asked in the exam, is the fiscal deficit. And all the three you can call, they are budgetary deficits. Revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, primary deficit. All the three are types of budgetary deficits. Now you take a look at this. I have spent 50 minutes explaining to you all of these important concepts so that you can take a look at this photo, and I am sure your heart will swell with pride, because now you will be able to understand what is written. Okay. Revenue receipt, capital receipt, total receipt, plan expenditure, non-plan expenditure, total expenditure, revenue deficit, and all of that, fiscal deficit and everything. And this is a table where everything is summed up, which I have told to you just now. And we finish the NCERT, but there are 2-3 concepts more which I will tell you during the course of the video from NCERT. Okay. Now let's talk about the budget. Finally, budget of 2022. Is the budget, this word, there in our Constitution of India? No. Our Constitution of India does not talk about the budget. The term budget is not mentioned in the Constitution of India. The Constitution refers it to as annual financial statement according to Article 112 of the Indian Constitution. Now, if you want, you can remember these articles for your MCQs. Chances are less that they will come in the banking exam, but they do come in the SSC Railways level exams, state PCS also. So annual financial statement is what they call it, and budget term is not there in our Constitution. Now, the receipts and disbursements are shown under 3 parts in which the government accounts are kept, namely Consolidated Fund of India, Contingency Fund of India, and Public Account of India. In the annual financial statement or budget, there are 3 funds. Okay, 3 types of government accounts are there. One is called the Consolidated Fund of India. All the money that the government earns, okay, goes into the Consolidated Fund of India, and from here government will do the expenditure. So let me tell you in short what is all this, and then I will explain to you in detail. Contingency Fund of India, the word contingency means emergency. So if you want to keep some money in that, some old books say 500 crore, but it can be more. Basically, one part of the money that you keep in the Consolidated Fund of India, you put into the Contingency Fund of India so that it is available quickly. If there is a fire in Maharashtra somewhere, the central government will need immediate money. So that will come from the Contingency Fund of India. Usually the money is very, very less in this fund. Obviously, Consolidated Fund is the main fund. And we also have the Public Account of India. In public account, government will keep that money which it is taking from the people, which it has liabilities on. Now again, what is the difference? Difference is the same as I told you earlier when I talked about the revenue receipt and capital receipt. In revenue receipt, government does not have any liability. Government does not need to give that money back. In capital receipt, it has to give that money back. So in Consolidated Fund of India, the government does not need to give the money. There is no liability of the government. in public account of India, government will keep that money that it will have to give back to the people. Okay, now let's study this quickly. Consolidated Fund of India is Article 266(1). Contingency Fund of India is Article 267, and Public Account of India is Article 266(2). This is for your MCQs for your Railway, State PCS and SSC exams. Now, Consolidated Fund of India is the most important because this fund is filled by all the taxes, the direct taxes, the indirect taxes, everything is put in this fund. Then the returning of the loan or interest of loan to the government by anyone, any agency. If the government has given loan to state government, local government, it will take that money back with interest. They will put it into the Consolidated Fund of India. And the government, all the expenditures that the government do, all the expenditures of the government of India, most of the expenditure is from this fund. But to withdraw the money from this fund, it needs the parliamentary approval. This is the most important point. If the government has to take money out from the Consolidated Fund of India, it needs the approval of the parliament. Now, does it mean that every time they will go to the parliament? If I have to pay salary to my employees on every month, parliament does not sit every month, no? But if there is no session that month, there is no monsoon session, there is no budget session, but then what? You can present the bills later on, okay, and you have to justify to the parliament. So, the text language is the government needs the parliamentary approval for expenditures from Consolidated Fund of India. And of course, all of these funds will be audited by the CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Then let's talk about the Contingency Fund of India. One part from the Consolidated Fund, some money, very little money from the Consolidated Fund will be put into the Contingency Fund so that during the time of emergency, you don't need the approval of anyone. You can simply take out that money. So, this fund is used to meet unexpected or unforeseen expenditure and there is no parliamentary approval required. And then we have the Public Account of India. Public Account of India has that government fund which is made up of the Small Savings Scheme, the Provident Fund. People invest in Provident Fund, that is a source of money for the government. People invest in Kisan Vikas Patra. People invest in Sukanya Samriddhi account. People invest in, senior citizen saving certificate. All of this. So, this of course government has to give back. If you retire from government job, you will ask for your Provident Fund. Even in private, there are PF liabilities. So, all of that money, goes into the Public Account of India. And the government does not need the approval of the parliament to take money out from this also. The main difference between Consolidated Fund and Public Account of India is that in Consolidated Fund, there are no liabilities of the government. In Public Account of India, whatever is the source of money for the government has to give it back. Whether it is Provident Fund, whether it is National Saving Certificate, whether it is Kisan Vikas Patra, small saving schemes, all of them, right? So, this needed to be told because in interview, if they ask you what is included in the annual financial statement, then you will need these concepts. Now, who prepares the budget? Budget is prepared by the Department of Economic Affairs. In the Department of Economic Affairs, in the Ministry of Finance, there is a budget division. So, the budget division of the Department of Economic Affairs in the Ministry of Finance is the nodal body responsible for preparing the budget. Now, let's take a look at the budget of 2022-23 and let's do a comparison. Now, you see, if in one word they ask you, what was the budget expenditure? I told you, government plans the expenditure first. So, how much is the government expenditure? How much is the money that the government will spend? 39.44 lakh crore. 39.44 trillion rupees or 39.44 lakh crore. So, this is the total expenditure. Out of that, revenue expenditure and capital expenditure, and I told you which is more. It is always the revenue expenditure that is more. Why? Because in revenue expenditure there are lot of types of expenditure. You have to pay salary, you have to pay pension, you have to maintain the public properties, you have to maintain your assets and everything. In capital expenditure, you only have to create the public asset or you reduce liability. So you can see revenue expenditure is 31.94 lakh crore. Out of 39.44 lakh crore, almost 32 lakh crore is the revenue expenditure and the remaining is the capital expenditure. So you can see 7.5 lakh crore is the capital expenditure, and here you can see that there is the actuals, budgeted and revised. What are these? Actuals is what happened, which is actual, because financial year 21, it has been a lot of time now. All the data is with us. Budgeted means what was there in the last budget, budgeted 2021-22. So for example, in the budget of 2021 last year, Nirmala Sitharaman, Finance Minister and Corporate Affairs Minister, she said that the revenue expenditure will be 29.29 lakh crore. But now almost 10 months have passed. So today we are in a better position to ascertain what will be the revenue expenditure. She calculated, estimated and told in the budget 29.29. But today we know whether we will exceed this expenditure or not. So this is called revised. 10 months have gone already. Budget was presented on 1st of February. So it will not be that, it will be a little over that. So it will be 31.67. See, we always try to obey what we have decided. So if on the first of the month I have decided that I will spend 5,000 rupees, I try my best to obey. But on 25th or 26th, I will do a revised estimation. And I will say, look, I tried my best to spend only 5,000, but I can see now 5,000 I have already extinguished on 24th. So I will need another 1,000. So what will be my revised estimation? It will be 6,000. Similar is here. So this is what happened 2 years back. Okay, 2020-21. That year the facts are here, they cannot be changed because we know it now, and all of these are calculated by the National Statistical Office. Then budgeted, revised, and when we compare, we always compare with revised. Okay, and you can see capital expenditure. I told you PM Gati Shakti. PM Gati Shakti means what? We will build infrastructure. So our capital expenditure will increase significantly. And usually capital expenditure does not increase to that amount, that high. Okay, 5-6% extra, 10% extra. But you can see the capital expenditure is 24.5% more compared to the revised estimate of last year. From 6 lakh crore, it is now 7.5 lakh crore. Okay. Whereas revenue expenditure, a mild increase, almost similar. You can see here, compared to the revised estimate, it is almost the same. There is an increase of only 0.9%. Okay. Now let's talk about the receipt. Okay, now the government has decided, I will spend 39.44 lakh crore. Out of that, 31.9 will be the revenue expenditure and 7.5 will be the capital expenditure. Fine. Now comes the next question, which is a $1 million question. Where will you arrange the money from? No problem, receipts. So revenue receipt is 22 lakh crore Revenue receipt, what will be there? Tax revenue, non-tax revenue, all of that will be there. 22 lakh crore we will collect this. Okay. Capital receipt, the borrowings, disinvestment and recovery from loan, only 79,000. So the total receipt will be 22.83 lakh crore. What about the rest? What about the rest? You are having a serious shortfall, no? Because you are spending 39.44 lakh crore and your total receipt excluding borrowing is 22.83 lakh crore. And that is why you have so many deficits. You have a revenue deficit, right? 3.8%. 3.8%. You have a fiscal deficit of 6.4% projected for the coming financial year 2022-23, and primary deficit will be 2.8%. Now I will not explain you again what are these three types of deficit. I have already explained to you. Understood? And if you want to go a bit deeper, you can see the capital receipt. Now in capital receipt, this is very interesting. Disinvestment. The disinvestment target of the government was 1.75 lakh crore last year. Government kept such a huge disinvestment target last year, as if they are going to privatize everything. Banks, PSUs, you name it. But they did not achieve their targets. And you can see the revised target went 55% down to only 78,000, which means the government realized that now it is February and in 2 months I cannot achieve the target. So they decreased the target by 55% and they brought it down from 1.75 lakh crore to 78,000 crore. So what is the revised disinvestment target? 78,000 crore. So it makes the government a little humble, and that is why for this budget year 2022-23, which will start on 1st of April, look at the target of disinvestment, only 65,000 crore. Now I am very sure if the government achieved this disinvestment target last year, or at least coming close to that, they will not reduce it by keep such a humble target of 65,000 crore. But they have kept 65,000 crore as the disinvestment target for this year 2022-23. Okay, what I have explained to you I have written here. Okay, nothing more to explain in this. Total expenditure will be 39.44 lakh crore and this is an increase of 4.6%. So last year whatever the amount that whatever was the budget outlay, budget expenditure, this time it is 4.6% more. And you can see revenue expenditure and capital expenditure, which I have already told you. And these are the total receipts. So the gap between these receipts has to be plugged by the borrowing. How much is the gap? Almost 16.61 lakh crore. So this is the gap that has to be filled by borrowing money. And deficit I have told you. Revenue deficit 3.8% of the GDP, fiscal deficit is 6.4% of the GDP, and primary deficit is 2.8% of the GDP. What is this percentage of GDP? So you take out the deficit, whichever formula you apply, and you divide it by the total GDP of India. Total GDP of India, I think it is approximately $2.5 trillion. $2.5 trillion, you divide it by that, you convert that amount into dollar and you divide it by $2.5 trillion, multiply it by 100, you will get the percentage. Or you convert $2.5 trillion into the rupee and you divide, same. Now let's see some very important concepts. Where does the rupee come from? I told you rupee comes from various sources, revenue receipt and capital receipt. Now I have to break it down. You can see the maximum money was borrowings. 35% of the money that came to the government was from borrowings and other liabilities. It could be domestic borrowing or it could be borrowing from abroad. 35% of the money of the Indian government is from borrowings, and this requires a lot of leadership. Okay, World Bank will not give a loan to just any random country. So that is 35%. Now, which is the second highest source of income for the government? Is it income tax? Income tax is 15%. No, it is GST, 16%. So after borrowings, the second highest source of income for the government is the indirect tax, the GST, 16%. And one good thing was that in the entire year, the GST did not reduce much. Even if there was a reduction, it was not by much. GST was more than 1 lakh crore for almost all the months. It kept on increasing and increasing. Then third highest is the income tax and the corporation tax. Together both make 15% each. Excise duty 7%, non-tax revenue 5% and customs 5%. Now tell me one thing. If somebody asks you, should we abolish the income tax? Now a person who does not know will say, if you abolish the income tax, the country will, what will happen to the government? Where will it get the money from? But you see here, income tax is contributing to only 15%. You will still have a remaining 85% money. No, income tax contributes only 15%. You can abolish income tax, but it will require a lot of calculation. You can't give a shock to the economy like you did during the demonetization. You have to plan it well. A lot of economists say that if you abolish the income tax, then what will happen? People will show their true colors. All the black money becomes white and they will invest that money. It will lead to tremendous economic growth, and in that we will cover that 15%. Understood? Just imagine if you don't have to pay income tax. You are earning 1 lakh rupee, 30% you are paying income tax. That 30% you save, that 30% what will you do? You will invest, you will spend, you will invest in the market, share market, stock market, or you will spend. It will lead to economic growth. When you spend money, it leads to growth. So these are some concepts. Okay, there is no time today that I can go deep into these concepts, but okay. Now let's see this table. So those tables which earlier looked very scary now should excite you. Now look here, the tax revenue, this is the gross tax revenue, this is the net tax revenue, this is the non-tax revenue, and this is the capital receipt excluding borrowing. Okay, so this is what is the projection by the government. You can see here that gross tax revenue will be 27 lakh crore and net tax revenue will be 19.34 lakh crore. And in tax revenue, you can see corporation tax, income tax, goods and services tax, customs tax, service tax and all these taxes. Non-tax revenue will be 2.69 lakh crore. And capital receipt without borrowings will be 79,291 crore. You can make a sense of it. Expenditure, grants, all of these are given here. And basically, if you add everything up, it will come to that figure only. Ultimately, the money that the government will spend will be that only. But whatever was required, I have told you. You don't need to remember the expense on everything. They will never ask you, for example, how much the government will spend on the rural local bodies, the Gram Panchayat. You don't have to do that. You just remember the total expenditure, 39.44 lakh crore, the capital expenditure, the revenue expenditure, fiscal deficit, that's it. Now I told you, where does the rupee come from? Taking money. But it will go also. Now imagine this. If 35% of your income comes from loan, won't you pay tax? Yes, you will pay tax. So what do you expect our maximum expenditure to be? It is tax or interest that you pay on this borrowing. Now see here, 20%. 20% of the expenditure of the government, 1/5 of the expenditure is interest payment on the loans, which accounted for 35% of their earnings. And second highest is state share of taxes and duties, that is 17% expenditure went into that. By the way, if I ask you how much the government of India shares with the states according to the 15th Finance Commission, so this is what you call the devolution. What is the meaning of devolution? All the taxes are collected by the central government, and even the state government, whatever tax they will collect, ultimately there will be a pool, right? So the taxes that the central government ultimately will collect, 13th Finance Commission said 32% will be given out of that to different states. It will be distributed among the states, 32% of what is collected. So devolution was 32% according to the 13th Finance Commission. Then came 14th Finance Commission, because how much money is to be given to the state is decided by the Finance Commission of India. So they increased it to 42%. This was a huge increase from 32% to 42%, and now it is 41%. Some 1% decrease is there because of the status of the Jammu Kashmir. It is not a state, it is a union territory now. So no money to be given because it is directly under the control of the central government now. It is a union territory. So because of that adjustment, it has now 41% for the 15th Finance Commission from 2021 to 2026. So how much money that the central government collects goes to the states? I am talking about the tax only. The money that central government collects from different taxes and non-taxes. So 41%. Now here you can see state share of the taxes and duties was 17%. There are different types of, in the GST compensation also is there. Then third highest was central sector schemes, 15%. Then we have centrally sponsored scheme, 9%. Before that we have Finance Commission and other transfer, that is 10%. Subsidies 8%, other expenditure 9%, pension 4%, defense 8%. 8% of our expenditure is on defense, 8%. Interest payment is 20%. Understood? Now what is the difference between centrally sponsored scheme and central sector scheme? A centrally sponsored scheme is the one where the state and the central government, they both will share the money, split the money. For example, there is a scheme in which the central government will pay 60% and state government will pay 40%. So that is also an expenditure of the central government. That is called centrally sponsored scheme. It is a scheme that is sponsored by the central government, but the state government has also to contribute. And a central sector scheme is the one in which 100% money is contributed by the central government. There is no money that is contributed by the state government. That is called central sector scheme. Understood? This is the difference. And no wonder for central sector scheme, the outlay is more, because here 100% money is contributed by the central government. Now, I have already told you the target for fiscal deficit 6.4%, revenue deficit 3.8%, primary deficit 2.8%. The nominal GDP is estimated to grow at 11.1% in the year 2022-23. Nominal GDP means which includes inflation. And if you remove inflation from it, it becomes the real GDP. And our target is that we need to reduce the fiscal deficit to 4.5% of the GDP by 2025-26. So this is a medium to long term target. We ultimately want to achieve a fiscal deficit of 4.5% of the GDP. Why do we want to achieve this target? Why not have zero deficit? In fact, why not have a surplus budget? Forget deficit, let's have a surplus budget. Okay, in books it may be, on paper it may be possible, but as long as we are a highly developing country, it's not possible. The best we want is to have a fiscal deficit of, still have a fiscal deficit of 4.5% of the GDP by the end of the financial year 26. Now let's come to the easy part. Okay, not very easy, but okay, still easy. What all the things have been announced in the budget? What are all the schemes and everything? What is Amrit Kal? Amrit Kal. Amrit means nectar, sweet liquid. Kal is a time period. Amrit Kal. In 2022, we are celebrating 75th anniversary of India's independence. And our country got independence in 1947. That means in 2047, we will celebrate the 100th anniversary of India's independence. So the time period between 2022 and 2047, the next 25 years is Amrit Kal. This is the year of India. This is the time when India will realize its potential according to PM Narendra Modi. So this is the 25-year long period till 2047. We will focus on growth, we will promote technology, we will also work on climate change, we will try to become net zero, although the target is 2070, but we will focus a lot on renewable energy, and we will bring a lot of investment into India. We will become a more globalized economy, an aspirational economy, a developed country. Now in the budget of 2022, Nirmala Sitharaman said that she allocated some amount for building solar panels, solar photovoltaic modules. Government of India has a scheme which is called Production Linked Incentive Scheme. What does this mean? So there were a lot of things, lot of items which were not manufactured in India to a great extent. To give incentive that if you manufacture it in great quantity, then you will get incentive. You incentivize manufacturing. That is what is production linked incentive scheme. Government, what basically they are doing, number one, they are giving lot of subsidies if you set up factories or industries of these particular sectors. They are giving different types of allowances. They are giving you mentorship, they are giving you knowledge. And most important, they are giving you different types of grants. So, production linked incentive scheme earlier used to be for 13 sectors and now it is for 14 sectors. Which was the 14th sector that was added to the production linked incentive scheme? When this scheme was started, that time we were suffering from COVID. So you talk about 2022 March, the time of the first lockdown. We started this scheme that time for building pharmaceutical ingredients for drugs, for manufacturing the medical devices, the PPE, the mask, and all of these. And we also wanted to do electronics manufacturing. So when production linked incentive scheme was started, it was only started for 3 sectors. And then 10 more sectors were added in November 2020. So they became 13. But now, very recently, 14th sector has been added, which is called Drones and Drone Component Ministry for Civil Aviation. 120 crore worth production linked incentive were awarded for drone and drone component manufacturing in India. Drones were brought under production linked incentive scheme. Understood till now? So the MCQ will come. How many sectors of the Indian economy, how many different types of sectors are there in the production linked incentive scheme? The answer will be 14 sector. And one question can come, which will be the 14th sector? Then the answer is drones and drones manufacturing. So in the budget, what was announced by Nirmala Sitharaman? So she said that the production linked incentive scheme in the 14th sector, it will help in creating 60 lakh new jobs. Just imagine 6 million new jobs, and it will lead to an additional manufacturing of 30 lakh crore. Because of the production linked incentives that are handed over in the 14 sectors of the economy, 30 lakh crore worth manufacturing will be extra. This is what was said by Nirmala Sitharaman. So both of these are important figures. And in the budget, she announced 19,500 crore for manufacturing of high efficiency modules, which is again a part of production linked incentive. You see here, in the production linked incentive in November 2020, high efficiency solar PV modules was added, and for this sector 19,500 crore has been allocated. Why? Now earlier our target was what? Our target was that by 2030 we will have 450 gigawatt of renewable energy. 450 gigawatt. Now it has been increased to 500 gigawatt. Pradhan Mantri Narendra Modi at COP26 announced it, that now our target to have renewable energy is 500 gigawatt and not 450. And out of 450, our target was to have 280 gigawatt of solar power. Out of 450 gigawatt, when 450 was our target, 280 was solar power, very important, and 140 was the wind power. These were the two most important targets, 280 gigawatt and 140 gigawatt, 140 gigawatt wind power and 280 gigawatt solar power. So we have a very ambitious goal of 280 gigawatt of solar power. For solar power, we need photovoltaic modules. For manufacturing those, they were brought into PLI scheme, and now in the budget 19,500 crore has been earmarked for the same. Understood now? If you talk about India's energy mix, because this is important, so far our renewable energy that we have installed is approximately 150 gigawatt. And what is our target? In the short term, our target is 175 gigawatt by 2022. And out of 175 gigawatt, we have already installed 150 gigawatt. So we are very close to achieving this short-term target. But our long-term target is very ambitious. We want to have 500 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2030. And the nuclear energy. So nuclear energy is not a renewable energy. I repeat, nuclear energy is not a renewable energy, but it is a clean energy. So nuclear energy we have installed is only 6.78 gigawatt and 150 is renewable energy. Even if you add both, it is only 157 gigawatt. So the non-fossil based energy is only 157 gigawatt, and the total electricity or the total installed electricity capacity in India is 392 gigawatt. So non-fossil based is only 40%. Non-fossil based is only 40%, right? So this is India's energy mix. Obviously we need to have more solar power. Okay, now disinvestment target, I told you, disinvestment target is set at a very low 65,000 crore for the financial year 2023, that is 2022 to 2023, and the last financial year that will end now on 31st of March, the disinvestment target earlier was 1.75 lakh crore. It was reduced by 55% to 78,000 crore only. DIPAM is that agency which is responsible for privatization, for bringing IPOs of government enterprises. Agency for Divestment. What is the full name of DIPAM? Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, or DIPAM. And so far in the 10 months of the financial year 22, we have raised only 12,000 crore approx. So even this target, which has been reduced or watered down to 78,000, looks a bit unachievable. Okay. So DIPAM has privatized, or you can say divested, worth only 12,000 crore in the financial year 22, and now 31st March is not very far. It is difficult to see how the government will add further money. Yes, some money they have added. So for example, Air India, there is a strategic transfer worth 18,000 crore. And very recently, Neelachal Ispat Nigam Limited, which is in Kalinganagar in Odisha, it has been sold to Tata Steel for 12,000 crore. So both of these deals will help the government in realizing this financial year's disinvestment target, which is 78,000 crore. And for next year, the target is 65,000 crore. Remember both. And in financial year 23, how will the government raise 65,000 crore target? So they will try to privatize, or they will try to disinvest from these companies. One, of course, is LIC. 5% IPO will be there. 5% is the disinvestment of the government from the LIC. LIC is 100% owned by the government of India. And Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, Maharatna Company, Shipping Corporation of India, Pawan Hans, which is the helicopter making company of the government of India, and Rashtriya Ispat Nigam, which is based in Visakhapatnam, also called Vizag Steel. All of these will be privatized. I am not saying these will be 100% privatized, but we will see what happens. Okay, it depends. So government will try to achieve the target. Now let's talk about the different schemes of the government. And you can see that the maximum allocation was for Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantees Act, Manrega, which came in 2005. In Manrega, 100 days of work is guaranteed, subject to terms and conditions. Not everybody is eligible for Manrega. Today, if I go to the government of India and I say, please give me work, they will see my financial profile and they will reject me. So, in Manrega, 100 days of work is given per year. And in the rural areas which suffer from natural disasters, additional 50 could be given, discretionary. So, some days of work is discretionary, but 100 days is given. Manrega has the maximum allocation. You can see the amount that will be spent on these schemes. And Manrega got 73,000 crore allocation, highest in the budget. MCQ will come. In the budget, maximum allocation was for which scheme? The answer is Manrega. Second highest. Which was second highest? It is PM Kisan, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana, where 6,000 rupees is given in 3 installments or 3 tranches of 2,000 rupees every year to the farmers. It is given to every farmer of India. Okay, when this scheme was started, there was a limit, something like 2 hectare or something was the limit. More than that, if a farmer has, he will not get. But now every farmer of India gets 6,000 rupees. Obviously, that money is required. So, 68,000 crore is the allocation. Now, you will notice something, that if you compare Manrega allocation of last year, revised, we always talk about revised only, okay. So, and you see this year, there is a decrease in the allocation of Manrega, which is a little hard to understand. Why it is decreased? Why the allocation of Manrega is low? And I will tell you the reason. So, last year was the year, it was a difficult year for everyone. It was a pandemic year. The third wave has not been that consequential. In fact, I can say that the third wave has not dented the economy. It has been rather inconsequential compared to wave 2. Wave 2 was like very, very adverse, very, very bad. And during that time, therefore, we needed more allocation for Manrega, because we needed to protect the poor people from joblessness. The unorganized sector was affected the most because of the COVID. That is why Manrega allocation was way high last year compared to this year. PM Kisan, then look at this, third highest allocation is for Jal Jeevan Mission. What is Jal Jeevan Mission? We want to provide tapped water to every house by 2024. This scheme is run by the Ministry of Jal Shakti. Understood? And of course, then there are other schemes. You don't need to remember allocation for every scheme. Just remember top 3. Manrega, PM Kisan, Jal Jeevan Mission. That's it. So PM Kisan allocation is 68,000 crore for the 2022-23 year. Now let's take a look at the ministry-wise allocation. And this is in the increasing order. So which ministry has got the maximum allocation? These are all MCQ questions. Now just because I have not framed MCQ here doesn't mean these are not MCQ questions. You have to apply your own brain. And the reason I have not made MCQ is because I wanted to be very thorough. I wanted to teach you in a very thorough manner. MCQ you can make on your own. So, Ministry of Defence. Ministry of Defence has got the highest allocation out of all the ministry. What comes under the Ministry of Defence? Does CRPF, BSF, do they come under Ministry of Defence? They also protect India's borders. No. Ministry of Defence has only 4 forces: Army, Navy, Air Force and Coast Guard. Army, Navy, Air Force and Coast Guard. And you can see money 5.25 lakh crore. That's a lot of money. 5.25 lakh crore. And this is more than last year. In fact, last year also the highest allocation was for Ministry of Defence. And after the Defence Ministry, second highest allocation is for the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. Why? Why this ministry has the second highest allocation? What is there? So, during the time of COVID, government ran a scheme called Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana. Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, which had 80 crore beneficiaries. And these 80 crore beneficiaries, they get what? They get for free 5 kg of wheat or rice depending upon their dietary preference. 5 kg wheat or rice. And this is the 5th phase of this scheme which is going on. In fact, this scheme was extended till 31st of March 2022. So it is still going on. And that is why you see that such a high allocation for food and public distribution. Third highest, of course, is the Ministry of Road Transport and Highway, 1.99 lakh crore. Then Ministry of Home Affairs. In fact, all of these paramilitary forces, they come under the Ministry of Home Affairs. The BSF, the CRPF, the CISF, the Assam Rifle, Indo-Tibetan Border Police Force. All of these, they come under the Ministry of Home Affairs. All the CAPF, also called paramilitary forces or centrally armed police forces. So Ministry of Home Affairs has also got a very large target, very large allocation. Then all the other ministries. Look here. This is the real deal. Here I have written ministry and here is the comparison. This is the revised estimation for the last financial year, and this is for the upcoming financial year. You can compare and contrast. You see that the Consumer Affairs Ministry, even though it has got the second highest allocation, it is almost 30% less compared to last year. Why? Because Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana is ending on 31st of March. We can't feed 80 crore Indians 5 kg wheat or rice without any COVID problem. It puts a huge dent on our finances. So that scheme, although there is no decision made yet, will most likely not be continued beyond 31st March 2022. Then road transport and highway, you can see the increase 51% more compared to last year. Why? Because of PM Gati Shakti. We want to build highway, we want to have roads. PM Gati Shakti model, 51.8%. And look here, communication, Ministry of Communication, 93% more allocation compared to last year. Why? Because we are working towards 5G. And we are also working towards making sure that broadband internet reaches to every village of India. What is the name of that scheme? It is called Bharat Net. Not Bharat Mala, Bharat Net. Bharat Mala is again your infrastructure scheme where roads, highways and all of these things will be set up. I am talking about Bharat Net. How many villages are there in India? Approximately 6.5 lakh. Just say 6 lakh. Okay, 6 lakh. And out of 6 lakh villages, less than 2.5 lakh, they have got broadband internet. So we need to do more. We need to create infrastructure. And no wonder Ministry of Communication has got such a large allocation this year. If they ask you MCQ, which ministry got the highest allocation? The answer is Ministry of Defense. If they ask you which ministry got the highest percentage allocation increase compared to last year, the answer is Ministry of Communication. Because the Defense Ministry only 4.4% increase was there compared to last year. And I told you that Ministry of Defense has the highest allocation. And you can see here, out of the total money, this is how the Ministry of Defense will spend their money. So most of the money will go into the salary of the people of the Indian Navy, Army, Air Force and Coast Guard. But you can also see pension, 1.44 lakh crore, almost the same amount goes in pension and in the salary. And then other expenses are there. And you can see here Army, Navy, Air Force. You can see the maximum allocation has been given to the Air Force. This is the capital outlay, 56,852 crore. Although this is not important, I was just telling you for your knowledge. Now let's talk about the holy grail of all, the big daddy of all, PM Gati Shakti. So in PM Gati Shakti, we will spend a lot of money. PM Gati Shakti is the new name for NIP, National Infrastructure Pipeline. Let me write it here. National Infrastructure Pipeline. PM Gati Shakti is the new name. And these are our target. Road transport. What is our target for this year? I am only concerned about this year. PM Gati Shakti, they have a long-term targets. But we only need to know for this year. So the national highway network will be expanded by 25,000 km, which means what? It means 25,000 km of national highways will be created. in this year, 1 year, 22-23. Let's talk about multi-modal logistic park. What is a multi-modal logistic park? Logistics is what? Logistics is you send the material from one place to another. That is called logistics. Right? And that material should reach by plane, by road, by railways, if possible by river, if possible by ocean route. Multi-modal, different ways, different modes. So, multi-modal logistic park will be there. How many? 4. In this year, 4 multi-modal logistic park will be created. Let's talk about railways. One station, one product concept. Beautiful concept. You must have heard in UP there was a scheme called one district, one product. One district, one product. You make one district famous for one product only. For example, Aligarh in UP, it is famous for the locks. The Moradabad district of UP, it is famous for the brass metal. And then you market it accordingly. It will create an identity of that district. It will be easier for people to recognize. Similarly, you create identity of a railway station. One station, one product. For example, if I am stopping at Mahabaleshwar railway station in Maharashtra, Mahabaleshwar, not Mahabalipuram. Mahabalipuram or Mamallapuram is in Tamil Nadu, not that. Mahabaleshwar. It is famous for strawberry. Very famous for strawberry. So what should I do? At the main railway station of Mahabaleshwar, I will ask all the wholesalers of strawberry to come there and sell their product. One station, one product concept, so that we make that station famous for the trade of one product, and we can therefore create the hub of one product at one station, so that it is easy to market. Everybody knows if you have to buy 10,000 kgs of strawberry, where to go? You go at Mahabaleshwar railway station. This is called one station, one product concept. 2,000 km of network will be brought under Kavach. What is Kavach? It is a indigenous world-class technology for safety and capacity augmentation. It makes Indian railways more safe. 400 new Vande Bharat train will be there. What is the difference between a normal train and a Vande Bharat train? Why it is so celebrated? Till now, only 2 Vande Bharat trains are running in India. The first one was between Delhi and Varanasi, and the second one was between Delhi and Katra. Katra, which is famous for the Vaishno Devi temple, it is in Jammu Kashmir. So, 400 new Vande Bharat. And where is Vande Bharat train manufacturing done? These trains are manufactured at the Integral Coach Factory, which is in Perambudur in Chennai. Understood? In Chennai, Integral Coach Factory. So, Vande Bharat trains, they have Vista Dome coaches. In Vista Dome coaches, you have these big windows. You get beautiful view of the outside. In fact, you look up the train and you can see the sky, because that also has mirror. It is see-through. The roof of the train is see-through, which does not happen in the ordinary train. So that is the Vande Bharat train. It has all the latest amenities, internet, clean toilets, hygiene, good food. All of that is there. So we will have 400 new generation Vande Bharat trains in the next 3 years. And we will have 100 PM Gati Shakti cargo terminal in the next 3 years for logistic facilities. Cargo is that train, freight train. Cargo means what? Cargo means to send products from one place to another. That is called cargo. Air cargo means what? You are sending product from aeroplane. That is air cargo. What is freight train? Train cargo. Understood? So 100 cargo terminal will be set up in the next 3 years. Then you have Parvatmala. What is Parvatmala? Parvatmala is the National Ropeways Development Program. You recently saw that from Dharamshala to McLeodganj, there was a ropeway, and this is what you call the ropeway. Even if there is lot of traffic, you don't need to worry. You take the ropeway. There is one difference. Till now, the ropeway in India, they were used only for tourism. For example, you go to Nilgiris, you go to Uti, Udagamangalam, you go to Darjeeling, you go to Nainital, almost all the hill stations, they have ropeways, cable car, but that is only for tourism. But now the concept is changing because our streets have started becoming more crowded. So we want to use the ropeway for public transport. Why not? And 6,000 to 8,000 people can travel through the ropeways in 1 hour. It is very, very cost effective. There is a limitation also. Ropeways can only be constructed where there are mountains. So you can't have ropeway in Haryana or Punjab. No way. You will need a lot of infrastructure. You will need to first build towers and all that, or pillars, and then. But usually ropeways are there in the mountainous regions. That is called Parvatmala scheme. And ropeways, cable cars, and all of these innovative mobility solutions, they have now been brought under the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, MORTH, headed by Nitin Gadkari. So, what is our target for this year? We will have 8 ropeway projects for a length of 60 kilometers. And then the finance minister said that she will give loans to the states. How much loan she want to give? 1 lakh crore. This will be the loan that will be given to all the states of India. It will be a 50-year loan. It will be completely interest free so that the states can also build infrastructure. This is also a part of Gati Shakti. You help the states also to build the infrastructure. Now let's take a look at subsidy. Not very important, but okay, just let's take a quick look at it. You can see food subsidy, fertilizer subsidy, petroleum subsidy, and other subsidy. Total money that the government will spend on giving subsidy is 3.55 lakh crore. And our budget was 39.44 lakh crore. So you can see almost 1/10 of the budget goes into subsidies. They have to be given, of course. So food subsidy will get the maximum allocation. Then we have fertilizer subsidy, okay, and petroleum subsidy and other subsidy. In other, there are other agriculture type of subsidies and all that, right? So food subsidy is the main subsidy because we are running Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana also. So for that also subsidy has been allocated. And I have already told you what is Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana. And fertilizer subsidy and petroleum subsidy. What is petroleum subsidy? This is the subsidy for LPG and kerosene, right? But this time and last budget also, no kerosene subsidy was there. There was only for subsidy for LPG. We are running schemes like Ujjwal Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Ujjwal Yojana. We are providing subsidized LPG, free gas cylinder or subsidized cylinder. Allocation for women, children, SC and ST and northeastern region. You can see the allocation for women, government will spend this much amount. And all the 5 vulnerable sections of the society, they have got good allocation. In fact, if you compare it, then there is a positive allocation. This year allocation is more compared to last year for all the 5. So women, children, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and for northeastern region, this is the allocation. Moving on, let's talk about agriculture and food processing. What was India's agriculture growth in the financial year 22? So it is 3.9% projected. 3.9%. And chemical free natural farming will be promoted close to river Ganga. How much close? So on the bank, let's say this is the Ganga river. It is flowing like this. Okay. This is the Ganga river. So 5 km toward this side and 5 km toward this side. 5 km from the bank of the Ganga river on either side. Chemical free natural farming will be promoted. And we will also promote food processing, branding of millet products. Why? Because 2023 has been declared as the year of millets by United Nations. That is why. And we want to move away from wheat and rice, which dominate our food. We want to have a healthy mix. Millets are very nutritious. Also, we want to use Kisan drones in the agriculture. Why do farmers need drones? For spraying pesticides, for spraying insecticides, for distributing seeds, for throwing the seeds in the agriculture land. For all these reasons, drones can be used in agriculture. So we will use Kisan drones. All of these things were said. Also, we want to link our rivers. If one river has more water, one river has less water, you send the water of the surplus river to the deficient river. That is exactly when we have started, Ken-Betwa link. The excess water of Ken will go to Betwa. Ken and Betwa both are the tributary of Yamuna river. This project will adversely affect the Panna Tiger Reserve, but we will still do it. And 5 more such river linking projects are for this year. Which are those 5? These 5. 5 more rivers will be interlinked. Daman Ganga river will be linked with Pinjal river, Par, Tapi and Narmada, Godavari and Krishna, Krishna and Pennar and Kaveri. All of these will be linked together. Also, I told you, chemical free natural farming will be promoted in 5 km wide corridor along the Ganga river. Now let's talk about education. Government started a scheme called PM E-Vidya. Have you heard about it? PM E-Vidya. What is Vidya? Vidya is education. Vidya is knowledge. What is E-Vidya? Digital education, electronic education, digital education. So what is E-Vidya? Now you are taking education from me in this video. This is E-Vidya. So government started TV. How many channels this TV has? PM E-Vidya TV. It has 12 channels. 12 channels. The number of channels will be increased from 12 to 200. Through the PM E-Vidya initiative, one class, one TV channel program. What does this mean? Earlier this was known as one class, one TV. So for first class we have one TV channel, second class another channel. If you open your TV, you will have 12 channels, one for each class from 1st to 12th. So there are 12 TV channels. But now we also want to have vernacular language channels. So our target is 200 TV channels. We will have in Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, all the vernacular languages from class 1 to class 12. So the number of channels have to be increased. So they will be 200. This is our target. We will focus on virtual labs and skilling. We will have a digital university with world-class quality universal education. High quality e-content will be delivered through digital teachers. And for skill development, also we have started a portal called Desh Stack e-portal. Very important. Any new portal, new government scheme is important. So Desh Stack e-portal, what is the full form of Desh Stack e-portal? Digital ecosystem for skilling and livelihood. This is called Desh Stack e-portal. It is for upskilling. And drones will be promoted. Already drones are a part of production linked incentive scheme now. 120 crore was the allocation that was made in the month of September, October 2021. So startups will be promoted in drone and they will be encouraged to have drone as a service. Have you heard about SaaS? Software as a service. If you are using a software as a service and you are paying every month for using that software, that is called SaaS startup, which are very powerful, very popular. Unicorns with a valuation of more than $1 billion. They have been very successful. Similarly, we want to have drone as a service. You don't need to buy the drone. You can take the drone from providers and pay them rent every month. This is called drone as a service. Now let's talk about health. So most important is this. 2 lakh Anganwadi. They will be converted to Saksham Anganwadi. Okay. And you can see in the budget, Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2. What is Poshan 2? Pradhan Mantri Poshan Yojana is for reducing the malnutrition in the women and children especially. For that the allocation is 20,000 crore. PM Poshan 10,000 to 30 crore, 34 crore. Mission Vatsalya and Mission Shakti. Their allocation has been given. You don't need to remember the data, but you do need to know what are these. We also want to have Tele mental health program. It will be launched for quality counseling, right? As I said, Mission Shakti, Mission Vatsalya, Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2 will be launched. 2 lakh Anganwadi will be converted to Saksham Anganwadi and National Digital Health Ecosystem will be rolled out. What is the meaning of Tele mental health program? Telehealth means what? Telehealth or telemedicine. When you are from an interior area, you don't have good doctors, you take the consultation of the doctor through a TV. Doctor will examine you sitting from hundreds of kilometers far. That is called telemedicine. It is possible. During COVID also, people took medicines after consulting with the doctors on telephone. That is telemedicine. On TV, that is telemedicine. So tele mental health will be promoted. And I told you Mission Vatsalya and Mission Shakti. So Mission Vatsalya, Mission Shakti and Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2. These 3 are the scheme of the Ministry of Women and Child Development. So earlier what used to happen till last year, Ministry of Women and Child Development had lot of schemes. Lot of schemes were there, but they were all put into 3 umbrella schemes. They were all put into 3 umbrella schemes. One is Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2, one is Mission Vatsalya and this is Mission Shakti. So which means these 3 schemes are a combination of different schemes. So for example, Mission Vatsalya is what? Child Protection Services and Child Welfare Services. Mission Shakti has 2 components, Sambal and Samarthya. In Sambal we have one stop center, Mahila Police Volunteer, Women Helpline, and in Samarthya we have Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, Crèche Facility, Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, Gender Budgeting, Research and all of these. And in Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2 we have all of this. Anganwadi Services, Poshan Abhiyan, Scheme for Adolescent Girl and National Crèche Scheme. All of these are a part of Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2. So these 3 are the umbrella scheme for the Ministry of Women and Child Development. And how many Tele Mental Health Center of Excellence we will set up? 23. And these will be set up with the help of NIMHANS and IIT, IIIT Bangalore. Indian Institute of Information Technology, IIIT Bangalore, and NIMHANS. What is NIMHANS? National Institute of Mental Health and Research, which is in Bangalore. It is the best institute for mental health in India. So NIMHANS will be helping to set up 23 tele mental health centers in India. Let's talk about MSMEs now. MSMEs, which form the backbone of our economy, one of the highest job givers. All these portals will be connected together, interlinked. Which portal? Udyam portal. What is Udyam portal? Udyam means a business. So if you are starting a MSME business, you register it here. This is for registration of the MSMEs, Udyam portal. Then you have eShram portal. If you are a worker from the unorganized sector of the economy, the gig economy. You get yourself registered here so that you are available, so that you become a candidate for different government schemes. The benefit of the different government scheme and different government policies will reach you only if you are registered. So for that there is eShram portal. Shramik means what? Mazdoor, labor. Then we have National Career Service Portal, which is giving rozgar or employment. If you are a jobless person, you go to National Career Service Portal, you will find plenty of jobs. It is a government portal. It is like the Naukri.com of government of India. And Asim portal, which was launched by the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Asim portal is for the skill upgradation. Now all of these portals will be linked together for bringing the best out of all of these portals. Then for MSME, export link for MSMEs, which are Emergency Credit Linked Guarantee Scheme, ECLGS. ECLGS. 130 lakh MSMEs, they are already provided with the credit. If there is one thing which the MSMEs don't get easily, it is the credit. So 130 lakh MSMEs are already provided with Emergency Credit Linked Guarantee Scheme credit through this. And now this scheme has been extended for one more year till March 2023. Also, guarantee cover under this to be expanded by 50,000 crore. Total outlay will be 5 lakh crore. The government of India, they had kept a amount that we will give 4.5 lakh crore as emergency credit linked guarantee to the MSME. Now that amount has been increased by 50,000 crore. So 4.5 lakh and 50,000, it becomes 5 lakh crore. So 5 lakh crore is the corpus for the MSME under the emergency credit linked guarantee scheme. 2 lakh crore additional credit for MSMEs through Credit Guarantee Trust for MSME called CGT MSE. This is another scheme. One is Emergency Credit Linked Guarantee Scheme and one is the Credit Guarantee Trust. So through Credit Guarantee Trust for the MSME also, you will give a credit of 2 lakh crore. And RAMP program was also started. What is RAMP? Raising and Accelerating MSME Performance. 6,000 crore rupees will be given as credit to the MSMEs through RAMP. So there are three schemes for MSME. One is the Emergency Linked Credit Guarantee, 5 lakh crore. Then you have Credit Guarantee Trust for MSME, which is 2 lakh crore. And then you have RAMP program, 6,000 crore. So MSMEs have got a lot of encouragement from the budget. Exactly what I have told you, I have written here. All the three schemes, ECLGS, CGT MSE and RAMP. Now some more announcements. Har Ghar Nal Se Jal, Jal Jeevan Mission. 3.8 crore households will be covered in 2022-23. Now a lot of states and union territories in India, they have already achieved the target of providing water through tap to every house. Like Goa was number 1. Goa has already achieved, Telangana has already achieved, Haryana has already achieved. But there is a long way to go. So 3.8 crore households will be given tapped water in the entire country in 2022-23. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, also called Housing for All. It is separated into two parts. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Rural and Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban. And 80 lakh houses will be constructed in 1 year. 80 lakh. PM Divine. What is PM Divine? It is a scheme for the Northeast. Let me show you. PM Divine. Basically in PM Divine, within PM Divine, there are different projects for Mizoram, for Sikkim. For example, in Mizoram, there will be bamboo road that will be constructed. You need not go into too much detail. Just remember the allocation for PM Divine is 1500 crore. Okay. PM Divine is a scheme for the infrastructure and social development of the Northeast. PM Divine. aspirational blocks. In all the aspirational districts of India, the aspirational blocks are those blocks or group of villages which are not developed at all. And aspirational districts as such are not developed that much. And within aspirational districts, we will find those blocks or villages. Block is nothing but a group of village. We will find those clusters of villages, the group of villages which are not developed, we will focus on them first. So this is what is aspirational blocks program for development of lagging blocks of aspirational districts. Vibrant villages program. The villages at the border, they will be given connectivity, they will be given internet, they will be given roads, infrastructure. That is vibrant villages program. Digital banking by the post office. 100% of the post offices of India. And how many post offices are there in India? Approximately 1.5 lakh. They will all be connected to the core banking system. And scheduled commercial banks of India, they will set up 75 digital banking units in 75 districts. Why 75 districts? Why 75 digital banking units? Because it is the 75th anniversary of India's independence. So 75 digital banking units in 75 districts by scheduled commercial banks. Now, ease of doing business. We will expand the scope of the Parivesh portal. What is Parivesh portal? Parivesh portal is for taking the environment clearance. Now its scope has been increased. So not only environment, now you can get, it is a single window integrated environment management system for environment, forest, wildlife and CRZ clearance. So different types of clearance is given, right? Not only environment but forest, wildlife and CRZ clearance is also given on the Parivesh portal. And we will have unique land parcel identification number for every plot. Have you heard this word? Aadhaar. Aadhaar is unique for everyone. I have a different Aadhaar number, you have a different Aadhaar number. Similarly, how about Aadhaar for land? Every plot, every house, every piece of land should have a unique number so that we can link it to the database and it will prevent land related fraud. It will settle property disputes. So it is a 14-digit number. It is called what? It is called ULPIN, Unique Land Parcel Identification Number. It will be enabled. We will set up CPACE. What is CPACE? It will help voluntary winding up of the companies. Now in India, it is difficult to start a company, but if the company fails, it is even more difficult to wrap up the company. There are so many different red tape involved in that, bureaucracy involved in that. So the time, the voluntary winding up of company will be reduced from something like 2 years to 6 months. In 6 months, you will be able to wrap up your business using CPACE. And AVCG promotion task force will be set up. What is AVCG? Animation, visual effects, graphics and comics. In fact, very recently in Bangalore, in Karnataka, India's first AVGC center has been set up. Now there will be AVCG promotion task force. We will support 5G also under PLI scheme, production linked incentive. We will support 5G also, right? And we will have research and development and all those things. Similarly, we will have chip embedded e-passports. The passports will have chips, e-passports, okay? That will be there. Moving on. PM Divine, I told you that 1500 crore rupees has been set up for PM Divine for the development of Northeastern region. What is the full form of PM Divine? Prime Minister's Development Initiative for Northeast region or PM Divine. And we will mobilize the resources. If the government is short of money, then they will raise the money. Through what? Through borrowing, through issuing green bonds, right? We will also introduce digital currency. RBI will introduce digital currency. There is no detail as of now what will be this digital currency, but it will be introduced. Also, digital assets, cryptocurrency will be 30% taxed. So, the word cryptocurrency they did not use, but 30% tax will be there. Moving on. Sunrise opportunity. What are the sunrise sector? Which are new, just as a sun rises for the first time. Sunrise sectors are artificial intelligence, geospatial system and drone, semiconductor, space economy, genomics and pharmaceutical, green energy, clean mobility system. These are called sunrise opportunities. These are relatively new sectors for India, especially with respect to research and development. And we will provide more money to the states. So, for example, I told you that we will give the states 1 lakh crore worth loan, 50-year loan at 0% interest, 50-year interest-free loan. Also, what is the deficit target for the states? So, the fiscal deficit target for the state is 4% of the gross state GDP. Okay, 4% of the gross state domestic product, which is state GDP, 4%. This is the target. And out of that, 0.5% will be tied to the power sector reforms. Also, there is a scheme called Scheme for Financial Assistance to States for Capital Investment. In that, from 10,000 crore, the amount has been increased to 15,000 crore. 15,000 crore is the amount that will be given to the states under this scheme, Scheme for Financial Assistance to States for Capital Investment. In text proposal, there is nothing new. Everything is more or less the same. You're not going to too much detail. Now they have given a concept of updated return. If you file your income tax return, you have 2 years time to update it. Okay, you can correct your errors. Then 30% I told you, virtual assets, cryptocurrency will be taxed at 30%. And in the PM Divine, this is the table. This is not very important. Total amount is important, and these are the sub projects. You can see some are in Mizoram, some Aizawl is the capital of Mizoram, some are in Sikkim. So total money will be spent 1500 crore. GST is increasing. Government is very happy with that. Now some extra announcements. I told you 100% of the 1.5 lakh post offices will be connected to the core banking system. 75 digital banking units in 75 districts will be set up by the Scheduled Commercial Bank. AVGC promotion task force I have already covered. Now this is important. In the thermal power plant, 5 to 7% will be biomass pellet that will be co-fired. Co-fired means what? In a thermal power plant, you burn the coal and you get electricity. Okay? You burn the coal, you get electricity. Now, if 100% is the coal, then you mix 5 to 7% of biomass pellet. Biomass pellet is got from agriculture waste. So it will be a source of income for the farmer also, and it will reduce pollution also. We want to become a net zero country. So we will encourage the farmer to use the agriculture waste. The stubble burning, for example, takes place. They can convert the stubble waste, rice waste. They can convert it into biomass pellet, and they can be fired in the thermal power plant. It will save coal. 5 to 7% you use biomass pellet, and remaining 93 to 95% you use coal. Then reduce the alternate minimum tax rate and surcharge for the cooperatives. We need to support the cooperatives. Cooperatives like Amul, cooperatives like Nandini in Karnataka, dairy. Cooperatives like IFCO, Indian Farmer Fertilizer Cooperative. Kamdhenu Dairy from Himachal. All of these cooperatives, they need to be supported. So, alternate minimum tax rate, it was different for both. Cooperatives paid 18.5% and normal companies used to pay 15%. Now there is a parity, same. So cooperatives will now pay 15%, just like any other company. They don't need to pay 18.5% alternate minimum tax. And the surcharge for those cooperatives, the income if is up to in the range of 1 to 10 crore, more than 1 crore, less than 10 crore. If the income of a cooperative is between 1 to 10 crore, then the surcharge has been reduced from 12% to 7%. So that's it. That was the budget. I hope I was able to do justice to this very difficult topic. It will make my job much easier next year, but then new students will come. Maybe now you can understand all the budgets in your entire life on your own. And that was the purpose for this video. To make you a confident person. Enough of mediocrity. Enough of learning these bits and pieces of information and thinking you have covered budget. This is how the budget should be covered. Exhaustive. Comprehensive. This is the quality that you pay for. Understood? And I have also launched my banking awareness static course. Allow me 30 seconds of promotion. Even though I'm tired, even though my voice is a bit husky right now, but because this is an exceptional course. It's very difficult to put in words the kind of effort that I'm taking for banking awareness static course. The lecture 1 has been uploaded, Basel norm, and I started with the most difficult topic, which is Basel norms. Not easily understood. This course is a little premium priced. So if you have the bandwidth, then do enroll. You can use the code GG33, capital, no spaces. And I will upload the next topic, Negotiable Instruments Act, on 7th of March. That's it. That was the video. Your job is done. Mine is not. I have to record the same video, 2 hours video in Hindi now. But okay, I will enjoy that also. I enjoyed immensely this also. And of course, with face, I think you will understand it more because there is an additional layer that is there. Because the personality of a teacher is a powerful teaching tool. And therefore, I am sure that you will appreciate this mode of e-Vidya that is being delivered to you. So on that note, I say goodbye to you and I will see you in the economic survey video. Do check that out also. Thank you.